Now, now we will talk about how to identify if our model is stationary or not. So let's talk about this. See, there are two types of data sets: stationary and non-stationary. When I say non-stationary, then I believe there will be some kind of seasonality or trend. Okay. When I say stationary, then no patterns are found. Fine. What do we do? Why is it important? To figure out which model to use. Normal models like KNN, random forest, decision tree. So we will do that for these kind of mm, stationary data sets where we don't have any pattern. For non-stationary, we will see which models we can use. Okay. And in stationary, what we do normally, we do normalization, standardization, right? These are some scaling which we do. So what we do for this non-stationary kind of data set, let's see. We all know p-value, p-hypothesis, null hypothesis. Anybody can tell what we know about it? Okay. See, since we have idea about p-value, we will talk about p-value over here. So here we got a model which is add Fuller. So add Fuller, we are going to use add Fuller on the data series. What is this? Just the sunspot. Okay. We directly get the sunspot over here. And we are also trying to figure out whether this is stationary or not. So we are only interested in the p-value. We will calculate p-value. So how do you know it's stationary or not? If your p-value is less than 0.05, if your p-value is less than 0.05, then you will understand that this data series is stationary. So what do you think? Is it less than 0.05 or more than 0.05? This. Fine. So what do we see? It is less. Since it's less, what do we analyze? That it is not stationary. We figured out this is not stationary. Here, where are we seeing it? Okay. So we have two things over here. Okay. Let's go to the paint version. We have two models over here. First is AddFuller, where our auto lag, we learned about auto lag, where our auto lag is AIC. And we have next model, which is KPSS. So we have these two models. For both the models, we have to calculate our p-value. Okay. So we can directly do that. It's a one line of code implementation. You can directly apply your KPSS over this data set, and you will be able to find out your p-value. So for this one, we got a p-value less than 0.05. Okay, and for this one, we get a p-value of 1. So what if it is less than your 0.05? In case of AIC, your series is stationary. So we are not talking about critical value because here also we have 5%, but we know to read p-value. That's why we are talking about p-value over here. So in case of AIC, if your value p-value is greater than 0.05, we say it's not stationary. So what we see in this model AIC, we see that the series is not stationary. It's not greater, it's lesser. So it is stationary because it's lesser than 0.05. And in this case, we see the series is stationary. So in both the cases, using both the models, we find out the series is stationary. Okay. So in this case, using p-value, we have observed this thing. Okay. There is also one more thing which I can't see over here, which I will like to mention. Mm, when both the models declare that your data is stationary, then your data is stationary. If both of them says your data is non-stationary, then it is non-stationary. Now, if your KPSS says stationary and AIC, which is Ad Fuller, says non-stationary, which means we have some pattern. So what we have to do to make it strictly non-stationary, we have to remove trend trend patterns. How we can do that? We will observe it. So always remember, both of them have to be stationary. Only then you can declare stationary. If any one has stationary and somebody else say non-stationary, then to make it strictly non-stationary, you have to remove some patterns. So how we will do that? We will see that. Okay. So from our observation, we see both are stationary over here. So now comes one more concept, which is rolling mean. We have to just change the label over here and it will work out. What is happening over here? What is rolling mean? Let's talk about it. Okay, I am talking about weight. Maybe initially weight is 80, some workout is done 78, then again some put on, then again 70, some huge workout is done 76, again it's increasing for a party, went to a party 78, like that. Okay, 5 observations. Now i I will use rolling mean to figure out what will be the. So how I will do that? I will add first two values to predict the third value. I will do a sum over here. What will be sum for this? 158, which is 7 9. My prediction is 79. I'm just doing mean. Then 78 79. Okay, that was so easy. Somewhere 78.5. Then this one and this one will be 70 77.5. Okay, so these are my prediction using rolling mean. How? By adding this two, I got this one. By adding this two, I got this one. By adding this one, I got this one. By adding this one, I got this one. Now I will because this I won't have, because I don't know how to calculate this one, because in rolling mean you have to give a number, accordingly it will calculate. Now you see zero error. Here you see 2.5, somewhere is the error. Here you see 0.5 error. This is the error. So the more it is, the more you will see the lines are separate. And the more zero these are, then you can see the lines are overlapping. Okay. So here the lines might not be that overlapping. So let's see the observation. It's not very great, right? We have done rolling mean, but using 3. Okay. So we are looking for first 200 numbers and we are observing. This is our observation that it is not very good. It's not that much overlapping, but yeah, it has worked out. If I think about it, if whether this technique has any sense, yeah, it has sense. It's giving us good results. Now, now tell me one thing. Now let's think about one thing over here. If I have to think about 79, okay, what is my today third day's weight? What is more important? This is more important or this is more important? I mean, don't think about this day wise, okay? Think about it like week wise, because that is not possible to lose weight every day or gain that much week wise. Okay, so if I think about 79, if somebody tell me, okay, predict your weight at week 3, so now what will you do? Will you, which day will you give more importance, this week or this week? So tell me, 78 or 80 importance, which, tell me. 78. Very good, Ravi. All of us are telling right answers. 78. Because previous week matters more to me. Why would I see? It might be something, might be difference. I never know. But last week I can rely maximum. So I will give more importance to this one. Little bit less important. Maybe previous, if I had any previous week, I will give 0.5. So now I'm giving weightage according to the importance. So here comes the next topic, which is weighted moving average. Fine, average. So here we are giving importance according to the previous decades or more previous decades. That is how we are calculating. We are doing the mean thing here, but also we are giving a weight. So how do you think we are doing it? Mm, if I have 78, then I'm giving this much weight to 78. If I have 80, then I'm giving this much weight to 80. So this is how I'm doing it in order to predict the 79. This is my second way of doing it. I can directly give some weightage. So does it improve? I think it improved, right? If you compare this one, to me it looks very separated. Even though it's overlapping, but yet could be done much better. This one is far better than that one. Agreed? Right? This is somewhere better than previous one. Okay. Let's move on to next one. Yes. So next we have exponential weighted average. Here we don't exactly give our we don't give weights. Here it's exponentially done. You don't have to give any numbers. You can just give the span. Look, last 3 decades you're looking for, minimum periods you're looking for three, and exponentially if you mention it will directly take care of that. So now this is the result. Previous one and this one is kind of very similar. Won't say that this did any great thing. Yeah, to me both are very similar. This and the previous one is very similar. Weightage thing and exponential is for this data set looks very similar. Fine. So let's look at the next one. Here we have a alpha. In alpha, we are able to give any number and we can check with different alpha numbers. Okay. This is a hyperparameter. When we can use this exponential smoothing moving average. This one. Look at this one, guys. This is so much better, right? This is like so much better, so much it is actually getting. So this alpha is really working. It's this alpha 0.7 is really working. If I just put some different value, it's fine, but I think 7 was way better. Okay, let's give it some more values. For example, 9. It's just overlapped. somewhere we also say that think it in this way, the more if it is overlapping this great, then it's kind of overfitting also, right? So it's better to not overfit the model this much, but zero point 0.7 is fine. But I think obviously if it's becoming so much better, I'll as of now do this. 0 0.8, I'll go with 0 0.8. Okay, this is way better. We can choose this one. So what we understand, exponential smoothing moving average has been the best till now. So now we are calculating the error. We will be looking at the differences. This is my differences. These are overlapping. I'm putting all the plots in the same plot. We have just updated our values now. So let's see it. This is all overlapped, but obviously we can't understand, we can't choose. We have all of these numbers over here, like different algorithms we have used. It's very difficult to find out which has done best in this way. So what we can do is we can just make a clear understanding. So what we understand from here, rolling mean, weighted moving average, exponential weighted average, exponential smoothing moving average, which is good best from these values. Let's calculate. Okay, this is the first five values. So how do we know? Let's do this. See, for first one we got so the lesser it is, the error, the more you can decrease the error, the better it is, right? So initially we got 234, 176, 170, but our best is exponential smoothing moving average 105, right? So now I just told you, like we also remove you know, when we have a kind of data set where we have some is selling stationary, something is selling non-stationary, so we to make it strictly stationary, we have to remove seasonality or trend, anything of that we can remove, so that we can make it strictly stationary. And now we know we can apply a model which will work on it, like any machine learning model. So this is my previous data, initial data. I am removing the trend from here. From this data set, I am removing the trend. So this is just the trend of the data set. Then this is the seasonality of the data set, just the seasonality. And these are the noise. So we are able to separate all of these things from the data, right? So this is how we can do that. How? We can just use seasonal decompose from our stats model tsa.seasonal, and this way we can use additive and we can do this. Fine. So this is our final result. We are adding the trend, the seasonal, and the res ID, which is noise. Okay. And then we are finally getting some values in our columns. How? These are my first 100. I'm looking at only at the first 100. So this is how it look. Fine. So now I will just look at the first 100 from my monthly mean total sunspot. So what do I see? These actually have become null, and last I can see it is same. Let's see how we can, what we can plot, what we can observe from here. This is the trend. We have, this is observed, and I'm deducting the trend. I'm doing subtraction over here. I'm removing the trend from the observed. So just without trend, my data set looks like this. So we can see this kind of, it's very stable. Obviously, it's not very clearly, we cannot clearly understand how exactly it's working out, how much trend we have, how much seasonality we have. This is, we have to do some out of focus work like we just did previously, But this is how we can remove our trend from any data set. Okay, fine. Any doubts, guys? Like, are you having any problem? Is it fine till now? Is there any confusion? See, this class, this class, we are not exactly telling you that, you know, mathematics way, but we are telling you how do you understand the data, whether it's something you can do with the, you know, time, how you can observe them, or how you can just the overview of how time related data sets could be, time forecasting could be done. So this is the observation. Okay, fine. So anybody, any question? If you don't have any question, we can move ahead and we will also discuss the questions. Remember, yesterday we have discussed about. Okay, so this is the autocorrelation plot. Autocorrelation, what we see over here, for each month, we are doing autocorrelation. So we see at initially, like I'm doing for each month, like this month I'm looking at previous month and then last month, then third last month. So what I see at the initial stage, it has a good correlation, but gradually it decreases. So we have anyway did not found any great pattern, right? For monthly thing, we have found for decade thing. Fine, let's just see for the month one. So we see, okay, this month, last month, second last month, till some month, I can see a pattern, but this after a huge lag, when I'm giving a very huge lag, then I don't see a pattern. So my correlation is, autocorrelation is decreasing. Okay, then now I am just observing this by doing a mean over here. For every date I have a mean value, like different. 1749 I have 134, 1750 I have 139. So I have for different years I did this, I got a mean, right? Now I am doing for, I'm doing for the year. I am doing this yearly. How? Because I've got the years from here. So DF and resample by 1y. Okay. So yearly I am resampling. So what do you think? Which one is better? This one? Like, do we have any autocorrelation over here or this one? If you compare this one with this one. So yearly or monthly? Yearly or monthly? Which one do you comparison? I'm not saying which is better. We can see some up downs over here. What does this mean? Better correlation or bad? Okay, let me, yearly. Okay, okay. Monthly. Monthly we get a better correlation. Akhtar, see this one, okay? Okay, just have a look at this one. See, initial stage for all both of this is quite similar. In fact, this is around 53% or something. What is this? Around 55, maybe 60% or something. And overall, so which is greater? Which is giving more correlation? This is less, no? Less correlation. Overall, this height also, look at the height, and here the height is also comparatively more. So it's yearly because we have seen previously also, no, that monthly we are not getting that much of pattern, but we actually, so this is just a confirmation, okay, that yearly we are able to get more correlation. Fine. So this is our, again, this is our plot. We have done 20 lags over here and we are looking at the values. Date wise, we, as previous, we didn't find out much information. Then here we see monthly also, no, not a big difference. But when we talk about decades, nth year, each decade, then we see a pattern. For every decade, we see at the beginning stage it decreases, and at some point it starts increasing. Okay, this is just we know how to read back box plots, right? Maximum density is here. So Bayesian plots are used to understand the density also, but here we are not able to understand the density. We are just understanding the range. So this is the pattern. Okay, then comes up a very good model, which is ARIMA. ARIMA is a machine learning. You can say you can use this model in order to predict for time series forecast. Okay, so what you can do, I think I have interrupted initially. This takes a while. You can execute this code. It will just happen. So according to this, it is observing. How do we do this? You have to install this one. I installed it, like you can see, and like we do in machine learning model, train test split, we can do this in our PMD ARIMA model. So here we are using the data frame. Here, max order can be equal to 4 or can be less than 4. Seasonal we have put true. So these are few parameters which are initially you won't be able to understand what will be the right parameter to give. But eventually, so why that is why we are using auto arima. So even we are giving something, it will automatically figure out which is the best parameter. So you can do that. You can just get PM and PM dot auto arima to figure out the values itself. Fine. So now we are doing this entire, we are running this. I did the keyboard interrupt, which means I just interrupted. And if I keep doing this, it will take a huge time. Around for each iteration, it is taking around 1 minute of time in my machine. So we can execute this later on. It around 11 minutes supposed to take, or maybe more than that. Also, we have to see. Maybe I can just run this. Let's see. It will take some time. That's the problem. Then then we are finally uh, creating a train and a test. We are separating data sets. How? On the basis of 1958. All the year less than 1958 will be our training data set, and all the year more than 1958 will be our test data set. So here we are looking whether we got any overlapped or not. So we didn't get. We will see that. This will probably give an error. So we can't understand. Okay, guys, this is taking very long time in my machine at least. So you have understood this thing, right? What we are doing, just predict training and then predicting. And we could have visualized few things over this, which we have previously also done. But this is just the forecast comparison. We will see that it has almost overlapped. So we were previously using which models? We have used these three models, four models we have used. Now we were also using ARIMA, and we could have got one score and also one visualization where we would have seen this kind of overlapping happening, and we could have calculated our root mean square there and accordingly compare that which one is best working for our data and finalize the model. Okay, that will only happen there. That is taking very long time. This is my installing my PMD arima. Then this is the model where I'm running it, which is taking like forever. Auto arima, because it is very difficult to pre- select parameters. Then I'm resetting my index because initially I had some indexes, so I don't want that. Training and testing, fine. I'm just comparing whether anywhere I got overlapped or not. All are false, no overlapping happened. Putting the length of test in my n. Okay, and in test one, what I have from 1958 to I have 1968. I have all the data from this range. Now I am training my model on this data. Train sunspot number for how many periods of time? Like this 10 n length of test 1, which is around 10. And finally we are doing the prediction on test data, and we are putting all this data inside a data frame so that we can easily uh, plot it. So now we are concatenating both the this one and the forecast. So we are comparing now, okay, and plotting it. So this is the outcome. This is the outcome which we see.